Just take a moment, coming into whatever position that you're in, with either a soft gaze or with the eyes closed. Let's bring our attention to our breath. 3 big inhales and exhales. Just releasing anything that might be stuck, any stagnant prana that might be there, might be here. And then dropping down to the heart. Often we get lost in the mind, in thoughts. Going down to the heart, dropping down, allowing your focus of awareness come from the center of the chest rather than from the head. It's an easy way to come from a more heartfelt place of existence. And breathing into this area. With a simple intention to open up, to open. Everyday life tends to constrict the heart. We often need practice just to unconstrict this space of being, open to this expansive awareness. So just touching base with the heart here, with your own heart of hearts. Beyond the tangible. The question has to come from you, essentially. Beyond this tangible, beyond the limitations of my body and mind. Putting any labels, not putting any tangible labels on who this is, what this is. Is itself a way to open to this expansive awareness.
So I'm assuming that some or all of you maybe come with some questions for us. So I would be happy to just pass the mic if I am correct in my assumptions.
As you know, calling it open house. So it's just kind of a time when we can get to know each other a little bit, and we can, you can ask questions of us. We can give you answers as we know them. But we can also we can also share where we're at, what brings us here, what brings our sparks our interest in being here, etc. So it's really just a time to get to know each other and to open up in this way. So it is very early in the morning here in India. It's 4:30 in the morning, 4:40 in the morning here. Although I know it looks like it's daylight, we have a lot of lights on, and we're dealing with shadows.
This is driving him nuts.
That drives me nuts. This looks kind of creepy.
He worked really hard this morning to try to get rid of it. But
not possible. Just don't have this set up. So our toddler is still asleep, and I hope that he sleeps through this call at least. But if not, he's welcome to join us in here. Say hi to you all. Although some mornings he's a little bit upset for not in our bed with him. What else to say? Goa's beautiful, sunny. Beaches are amazing. It's quiet here too, which is hard to find in India, anywhere in India usually. And we'll probably be moving to Bali soon.
Goa, India. Yeah, we've been on quite a journey. A short journey, a long journey. It's been a journey. I'm sure you've been on a journey too. Hoping to find a little bit of a resting place in Bali, especially for our son, where he can start to make some friends, maybe get into school a little bit. What else to say? Be grateful to be here and to have like-hearted beings such as yourself interested in what we're offering and what we're doing.
Good. We exchanged some emails, I believe. My name is Daphne. I'm gonna be soon a dietitian, and I've been practicing yoga for a while now, and it's been 2 years since I want to be like a yoga teacher, but mostly for my experience and for my knowledge, then maybe like maybe teaching later, but for now, just for me, I think. I want to be a dietitian for the kids. So I love the section about perinatal yoga and the kids yoga. So I would like to open maybe later a coffee shop and at the second floor a yoga studio. So I would love like to have everything in my knowledge to do that. Yeah, so that's why I'm here.
If everybody else is here to listen, because we can also just talk, unless somebody else has something they want to share or ask. Well, hi, James.
I'm just turning the camera off because I'm eating, so
Right.
don't mind that. And my voice is a little different because I'm sick, but I'm just wanted to show up tonight and say hello.
Thank
and
you.
Just to keep my participation in the Sangha. My main interest is in meditation. I started with I was doing the Kundalini training with Bhairav, and then I got a little off track on that. So I kind of was exploring the 200-hour just as a foundation, and it's been really helpful just to kind of go back to square one, so to say, and just kind of really connecting with the tantric heart teachings, and excuse me. Yeah, so that's my interest, the meditation and that kind of world. And then of course, knowing more about the upcoming the Beyond Asana mentorship and how that works with the teaching, the yoga teacher training and the Bali retreat. So those are my questions, but just here to listen and say hello mostly.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I wonder if the other James wants to share before I jump into answering questions.
Okay, you can sign me up. Volunteered here. Okay. Yeah, hello, I'm the other James. It's great to see you guys and you too, James, and seeing you on the heart space. yeah, you know, I guess I'm here for a similar interest too. I really like the community, you know, aspect of you know, this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's nice to see you guys and, you know, other familiar faces. I don't actually have a 200-hour. I've been practicing for, you know, some time, and yeah, it would be nice to have you don't know, an actual, you know, 200 an hour in case there's some kind of teaching requirement at a studio or whatever. I just came to check it out to see what's going on and see this whole this cool new thing that you guys have going. It looks quite exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. Just here to be here.
Or Gypsy, you're also welcome to unmute or drop something in the chat.
Video. This is Gypsy. Sorry, I have my picture up because it's early in the morning and still in bed. I am reaching out for a couple of reasons. I spoke to one of my teachers and they asked me what is it that I really want, because I tend to really absorb a lot of information and knowledge coming from the yogic paths, different lineages, realms of knowledge. And when I've been on and off and learning and I guess coming back to Anatara for over a year now, or just about a year now. I had done a yoga teacher training 2 years ago, 200 hours, and really realized I'm very interested in kind of a traditional route, like the idea of doing a 6-year program versus, you know, 200 hours. But I keep finding myself wanting to delve deeper, and I'm not sure if 200 hours is something that take me deeper than where I'm at. Although I do try to keep a beginner's mind. So I'm here to listen, learn, and see how it fits with where I'm at. So thank you.
Definitely, we can go beyond a 200 hour. But a 200 hour is a place to start. And a lot of people who do take this 200 hour, and this 200 hour is kind of more like a lot of doors opening into the beginning of the wide knowledge of yoga and of tantra. So it's kind of like kind of more a taster of a lot of things. So then even like a starter course, I could say this 200 hour, the 200 hour we have is anyway, because like it is that starter course, and then from there we can look into other things deeper with that kind of beginning understanding. But yeah, you know, maybe you have something.
Actually, I don't know. I do have things to share. James, I don't know if this is unfair, but I might ask you to share what your experience is like in the teacher training, because I know you're in a similar path practice as Gypsy. James is in the teacher training.
Me?
Yes.
Sorry, because I think we both were in that training too. So, and I think other James, at least I think you were in it a little longer than me. I So
Wait, you like 200-hour though too?
yeah, so I'm currently doing the Anatara 200-hour, and then I started the Kundalini a while back, and then wasn't able to complete that.
Yeah.
So that there's a lot of yoga trainings. But so I've just done module one. So
Okay.
I've done a 200-hour a couple years ago, the different lineage. And that was in person. So because I've been kind of following Anatara for a couple years and Shivoham, and I really like um the philosophical and the kind of the cosmology, and it feels more complete than just like doing one at your local studio or something. And just going back to, I mean, I've only done module one, and even reading the books, the recommended readings, it's powerful, and it's I like what you said, Bhairav, about how it kind of opens doors, and it feels a little deeper. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. So I think that if I kind of why I'm here is I'm thinking of adding the Beyond Asana mentorship, because I know there's some teachers from, the big Shivoham family, and then some other teachers from the Anatara family. And so Guru Ma, I think, and just getting to hear all of their inputs and what they have to say. I think there's value in that. But
Nice.
and I've studied, you know, a lot of different traditions, and so this does kind of feel like it's kind of like your general education, or your community college. You got to start somewhere, and then as you go deeper, then you get your, the 500. I know you used to do like a 300-hour way back when, but then the 300-hour would be like the master's degree or something. So you go deeper, the more trainings you get, but it's been good.
I wanted to make that connection in particular is because I know you have been practicing for some time, and so is Gypsy, and both of you also are very strong in your meditation practice in particular. But module one is definitely just the beginning of looking at that teacher training. So I will pick up the mic now and start talking. So one thing we didn't add is that we're in this room, in this house that nobody's living in, so it's dusty. So you'll hear us clearing our throats and coughing potentially from time to time. So our 200-hour teacher training, maybe you've heard the story, maybe you have not. I'll keep it short, but basically it was born out of love. It was born at the ashram in northern BC, Canada, when a group of our core students from the very beginning came to us and said, you're teaching something different than what I'm getting at my local yoga studio, than what I've ever been taught before, and I want to learn to teach that. By saying that although it is a 200-hour teacher training, it is definitely who's assisted in different teacher trainings. I would say it's going beyond your average teacher training, because we're not teaching just the physical, because we're teaching the spiritual components. And in this teacher training, you're going to be offered a array of spiritual traditions. So for someone who's new on the path, this can be very exciting. It can also be sometimes a little bit overwhelming, because we're providing so many different theories and connecting them. Although generally that's not the experience that people are having. I have heard it before. So it's nice that you have this teacher training to come back to again and again, rather than just attending one in person where you then depend on your notes from there on out. You have the videos and the practices to return to. Someone in the position that you're in, Gypsy or James, you've been practicing long enough that you're going to be able to easily make those connections between the traditions, and so may not feel challenging as it could for someone who's very new to the path, like maybe yourself, Daphne, more new to yoga, I don't know. Or maybe you're also in a place where you are very familiar and deeply immersed in multiple traditions. But the training is also presenting yoga. It's presenting the connections of yoga between Tantra, Shaktism, Christianity, even at times, Sufism. The style of meditation that you learn to teach is itself a combination between, somatics, if you're including the body scan, the watching, the counting, the exhalations of the breath is a Buddhist practice. Blowing on the embers of a heart is coming from Sufism. And then we have the self-inquiry from Advaita Vedanta. And then it's all based around the spiritual philosophy of the Hridaya, which is coming from Kashmir Shaivism. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that wherever you're at, you're definitely going to take something from this. You're not going to go through the training without getting something out of it, despite having practiced for years. And it also culminates with a recorded retreat, which itself I feel is quite valuable. And then, of course, you graduate a multi-style teacher. You are given these two main sequences. One is like more of a hatha flow, which you learn to then adapt for prenatal, for children's yoga, for vinyasa. And then you're also given this more traditional Tantra Kundalini practice, where you are learning specific asanas for each of the chakras. And this sometimes can be as many as 7 asanas, probably more like 5 or 6 total. And that's the beginning of also learning the Kundalini training. So it's a great foundation if you do hope to eventually take the Kundalini training with Bhairav, because here we're learning the basics of it. And so you're learning to teach this second sequence that's more of maybe a yin style. We're holding the postures for long periods of time. We're often working with the bija mantras, the mantras that are associated with each chakra. And like this, you then learn to guide people through practices that specifically awaken the chakras and specifically move the energy from the lowest chakras up into the higher chakras, all the while practicing some level of self-inquiry, maybe not always asking who am I directly, but being aware of how consciousness is perceiving the world on Muladhara chakra, Manipura chakra, on Anahata, and so on. So then we start to become very aware of our own energy system and how we perceive the world when on each chakra. Do you want to add anything before I keep going? Anyone else have anything they want to say? I'll keep going. So that's the second sequence. You're also learning Yoga Nidra. And you're learning Yoga Nidra not just as a practice of rest and restoration, but you're learning Yoga Nidra as a way to reprogram the mind, to be looking at your or your students' mental tendencies, their samskars, their mental conditioning, and structuring the Yoga Nidra to help them hopefully start to come to a place of equanimity despite what they're experiencing, whether it be fear or joy, tightness in the body, relaxation in the body. And this is a practice that I've personally found to very easily lead to very deep places in meditation, because ultimately it actually is a meditation. It's kind of just done in the reverse, in this laying down posture, which is unfortunately, like so many things in the West, it's been misunderstood as just being a practice for sleep or rest. When I believe, and I have experienced that it's really also for our spiritual awakening. You also are learning restorative yoga to speak about restoration, and you're learning how to adapt that second sequence again for restoration. In this training as well, you're learning a lot of postures, but you don't need to be able to do them all. But one thing that we are proposing with each of the postures is how to adapt it for different bodies. So there's not just this reaching for the peak posture, but finding space and presence in every posture, which for some bodies may mean using a block, using bolsters, and for different postures, different adaptations. So that I feel is a really valuable thing to be learning if we want to be teaching yoga, is how to make it accessible for all walks of life. So that, in a nutshell, is the 200-hour teacher training. There's definitely more that I can say about it. In it, you're also learning of the theory of yagna, of yantra, of mantra, of self-inquiry. The books that are recommended are coming from Rupert Spira, which is coming from a blend of Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism. There's also a book that Bhairav really recommends from Swami Rama, Yoga and Psychology. Arguably from Bhairav, the only book that properly represents the chakras. And so that's really valuable. And then, yeah, so that's lifetime access as well, which I feel is really beneficial. So then the group mentorship, I think after we're always listening to our students and to their needs, and always wanting to continue to be of service, I guess, is the best way to explain it. And so for some folks, going through a course that's online, on demand, always accessible, it easily slips to the bottom of the to-do list. And this teacher training was originally created to be able to be completed in 3 months. So it works out to something like 2.5 hours a day for 3 months. Now, of course, you don't have to complete it in such a short amount of time. And we found that it was causing people a lot of anxiety. So we stopped saying that you can take as much time as you need, but it can be done in 3 months. And so with this understanding, we've then added this live component, and that's the group mentorship. And this is getting to speak to various teachers that I highly revere myself, and speak to they each bring something forward in the 14 live calls that come with the group mentorship to help support you in finding more depth in your practice, and also just to connect with people who maybe even are saying things that we ourselves covered in the teacher training, but they're saying it in a different way. So I'll just add the little piece, which of course, when we have this live call that we want to show up to every week, then we are that much more accountable to our practice, because we know that there's people on Zoom waiting for us. And then it adds that extra support as we move through the 200-hour. So in those calls, you're going to get to hear from Guru Ma, who is supposedly going to speak about tantric festivals and tantric rituals and how these can support us in our spiritual practice and study of kind of having these times of joy and celebration and ritual. I say supposedly because she is a wealth of knowledge, and she'll definitely she'll share things about that, but I would assume that there's going to be so much more shared by her. She is the wife of a living tantric master. She's a wealth of knowledge. She's going to have a lot to share. And for some folks, yeah, everybody's going to take something different away from that talk, I feel. She can go from talking about deep philosophical concepts to complex tantric practices to simple things like how to just be a good person in the world. So wherever you're at, whatever you're needing, she's definitely going to meet you and have something to share. We also have my other teacher who I love and adore so much and owe so much to, Ellen Emmett, and she's my Kashmir Shaivist teacher, but I love her so much because she doesn't speak through words. She doesn't teach through words really at all. It's solely through direct experience. She's teaching a type of yoga that has very few formal shapes. It's all about spontaneous movement and really Shakti flowing through us, and spontaneous kriyas, spontaneous mudras, and nothing is really wrong in that space. And I love her so much. Yeah, she's just given me so much in terms of understanding yoga from a non-dual tantric perspective, without anything other than my own experience. We'll see how she shares with the rest of the group, but whenever I bring a question to her, she often just turns it back on myself, just always empowering me to find the answers inside of myself, and is never giving any definitive answers, which for some might be frustrating. And for myself, it's just been a continuous validation of like where I'm going to find truth. Then we have my dear brother Rishi, who's been my Sangha brother for a long time now, and he's another person who's definitely a wealth of knowledge and he's a what do we call it, a poet, a beat poet, and a rapper, but he's also a devout practitioner in the Muji Sangha, and he's there now in Sahaja, which is Muji's ashram, if we want to call it that. So he has a way of inspiring us and aspiring people to do their sadhana, to long for truth, to long for union with the divine, and always with such a clear and sharp non-dual tongue, never really allowing much mind to come into the teachings, which I really, of course, if you know Muji Baba, his teacher at all, of course, that's the way that he is. So he's a really strong practitioner with an incredible story of having multiple concussions through hockey and sports. He was hit while riding his bike by a car, a hit and run, and then he had to spend some years basically just living in his basement in darkness. And so he had to go from being this very active, athletic person to someone living in darkness and stillness because of that intense head injury. And so he found meditation, and that's been his journey, which I'm sure we'll learn more about in the calls. He's speaking on samyama and sadhana, I think. But again, it'll be an open space for people to ask questions and to receive from him. And all of these teachers as well are people who you can continue to work with after if any of them sparks anything for you. Should I keep going?
Keep going.
Who else do we have? Bobby. Okay, so then we have our dear friend and another Sangha brother. This brother is, however, coming from a different tradition and lineage, the Shivoham tradition. He actually originally started as a student of Bhairav's many, many years ago, but has risen to be an empowered guru in the Shivoham lineage. And he'll be sharing on mantra healing. And so I think something that's really worth underlining here is there are a lot. Mantra healing is one of those things that like a lot of people are teaching about. You know, you can pick up a couple books on it in your local bookstore, and then by the end of the weekend, you're teaching about mantra healing. But with Bobby, this is something that's been transmitted. First of all, he's had a mantra japa, mantra sadhana for decades, working with mantra, you know, at least an hour a day for a very long time. He went through a similar, before it was called the Tantra Kundalini training, he went through a similar Kundalini training with you back when he was beginning 15 years ago or something like this. And now he's been empowered by Guruji Maharaj of the Shivoham Tantra tradition to be working with mantras in a healing way. And he's just an incredibly humble man, not a lot of teaching experience, but he does have a lot to share. I'm sure he's also just a joy to be around. He's a happy guy. And I think what he's sharing, I don't know how much he's going to be able to give us practices that we can actually do. He is the one who's initiating people in Shivoham. If you're interested in that, in learning how to use mantras for healing, then he can be giving you that there. But obviously this isn't something you can just receive in, you know, a Zoom call. But it will be the beginning of really starting to understand how mantras can be used for healing. We'll probably look at the Trayambaka mantra, and that's that. Then, of course, we have Rainer, who is a long-time student, but also Sangha member. She was our cook for decades at the ashram, and she's a certified counselor and is working towards becoming a doctor in Ayurveda. And so she'll be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, but also specifically looking at the kinds of practices that we can be incorporating in our day to support our sadhana. What can I do in the morning, the middle of the day, the night, seasonally, to help me stay consistent, to help me have a clear mind, to help me show up and do my practice. Then we have Tara, which maybe some of you are in the Beyond Asana mini-series have got to meet Tara and hear a little bit about them. Tara is an exceptional person. They came to us for the first time at the ashram when they're 18 years old. So we've seen Tara go through a lot of the awakening process, the good, the bad, the ugly. But from the beginning, Tara was clearly just picking up spiritual practice again for something that they've been doing for a long time. There's a deep power in Tara in whatever they share and when they speak. So they will be teaching about bhakti, but they're also going to be teaching about spiritual activism and just how we can use that path of spiritual activism as a way of karma yoga and service, of living what we've taken while on the mat or on the cushion into action, into our lives, into ethics. Okay, and then there's us. We're going to share some things too. Actually, yeah, you're teaching about the subtle body, getting more into the nadis and the chakras, of course, your areas of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I guess this is the first time we're saying this out loud, but we're changing things again, or we're adding things on, maybe is a better way to say that. So a lot of the emails that we were receiving from folks about the mentorship were around how they have something that they want to do in life, but they're struggling to manifest it, or yeah, they want to have a cafe, they want to be a yoga teacher, but like fear or uncertainty or not having a clear path was all standing in the way. So now we're adding on a separate 11 calls with myself. This is typically something I do in a one-on-one format, but we're going to bring it into a group mentorship where we use tantric philosophy, Kashmir Shaiva's philosophy, and yoga psychology to really be looking at what it is that your heart is calling you to do. What is your dharma? What is your purpose? And then what's standing in the way of that? And then how we can move beyond that to start actually manifesting what it is you want to bring into the world. All not from this like goal-oriented achievement view, but rather from being like more from this perspective of being in the flow of life, being in the flow with your heart. Like truly each of us, however great or small, has something to offer the world. And like ultimately there is no great or small. And so sometimes we've just been too tuned in up here to be able to hear what life is calling us to do, to step into, to do next. And so that's very much what that group mentorship is about. And something we decided to add on because so many people were emailing and saying that's what they need, but it wasn't something we were really covering in the group mentorship already. So I'm not going to teach anymore in the original Beyond Us in a group mentorship, and instead bringing these 11 calls for Dharma purpose, manifestation, and taking action. Lots of talking. So then we've got the yoga teacher training, online, on demand, lifetime access. Then we have the group mentorship with these 8 teachers, 14 calls every Sunday. The times will be different because the teachers are in different time zones. Recordings are available. And if you can't attend live, but you're hoping to get that continuing education certificate from us, then you just simply need to watch the recording and then send us a write-up on what you took from it. It can be a formal essay, it can be just like your mind stream, whatever it is, something to just kind of present that you did take something away from those calls. And then if you combine these two, because we really do believe in this combination, then we're adding that cherry on top of the Bali retreat because that's the one piece that we feel is really missing to make this a full and complete teacher training. And so the Bali retreat will probably be in October or November, but hopefully October 2025. It'll be for 1 week. It will be with Bhairav and myself and hopefully Tara as well. You're going to get to do yagna ceremony with Bhairav and myself and Tara. We're all initiated into it, but Bhairav will probably lead it. Mantra initiation from Bhairav. And so we can practice mantras from a book, or we can practice mantras online. But then there's like secretive mantras. There's open mantras that you can find anywhere in any text, and then there's closed mantras. Those are the mantras that you can only receive from a teacher. And there requires a direct transmission for that to happen, which means Bhairav needs to physically touch your body in order to give you the light of the lineage in a way, so that you can practice mantra more specific to yourself. So what does that open up? That means then if you need a mantra specifically for your spiritual awakening, or you need a mantra specifically for your health, for your family, because you want to manifest a partner, a home, anything like this, it's all accessible through vibration, through aligning ourselves with a particular resonance, right? Which is what mantra does. And so you kind of need to have closed mantras for that. You can try to practice open mantras, but it's like giving someone an address that's very broad, like you can find Bhairavani in India. Like it'll, yeah, we're in India, but closed mantras allows us to be like, we're on this street, in this house, in this room, in this corner of the room, send that energy here, help me manifest that specifically in this body. Do you want to add anything to that? Closed versus right, just keep holding the mic. So that's something that you get from the retreat. Yagna, which is fire ceremony, the initiation, actually that's considered to be an initiation through Shakti herself into fire ceremony. Mantra initiation from Bhairav. We'll also get to look more closely. We'll spend a day or an afternoon looking at hands-on adjustments and hands-on healing. And then also just as a group, we're going to be practicing silence and sitting together and eating quietly together and these kinds of things, which is just so powerful to get to experience. So then, teacher training, mentorship, 11 additional calls with myself, the Bali retreat. And so the Bali retreat, it's free from Bhairavan, meaning that we're not charging anything from it. We're just doing it out of the love of teaching, because it's something that we want to give to our students, because we like coming together in community as well. But you still need to pay for your flight there. You need to find your accommodation and your food. And we're leaving it open that way as well, because everybody has different preferences. Somebody wants to hang a hammock on the beach and like cook their own meals. Somebody else wants to stay in the 5-star luxury resort with the duvet. All is good. Nothing's better than the other, but we all have different price points and preferences. So then this way, we don't have to make that decision for people, which is always kind of stressful when booking a retreat. And then we get to just show up and enjoy being in all of your company. So then also when you purchase both together, you're also getting really fun little package of a launch plan if you have a desire to eventually run a business, and like a launch plan on how to execute business ideas, I guess, marketing plans. You have all of these different reflection guides, like a sadhana tracker and self-inquiry journal prompts, like 3 different retreats and workshops, a bhakti retreat, kundalini retreat, and a third one, which I don't remember in this moment. It was a kundalini, and maybe just, I don't know. Anyway, there's 3 retreats that then can also be condensed into 3 workshops. And we outline everything there, from like what you should teach on day 1 to the last day, including the props you need, and then you in the teacher training learn all of the skills required to be able to run those retreats if you so wish. And then also when you purchase both, then you're getting like the opportunity to, I think it's once a month, book one-on-one calls with Bhairav and I if you have any specific questions about your sadhana, or if you have any specific questions about what you're learning, or maybe how you want to take what you're learning and apply it to your life. We're there for that. And you can choose who you want to book it with. And then we have these 20, 30-minute long calls with you to just support. Sometimes it's just for people to chat, even. We get to meet a lot of cats that way. You remember last time we were meeting a lot of people's pets?
No, I forget.
So I think that's everything. There was something you were saying that you feel like we hadn't properly expressed.
Oh, and I think that you expressed it actually. Yeah, these these calls that we're having with people in this Beyond Us and mentorship. It's more than just, I don't know, than just hanging out and having a cup of tea or something. It's more like a transmission into what they're sharing. And there's a fine line between those two. The transmission of that sharing, or just a sharing of knowledge. So one has energy with it. So we chose people in this who could directly transmit that. And it wasn't just a random bunch of people we chose.
Mm.
People who have been doing their sadhana for quite a while and have this power of the ability to transmit this spiritual energy in the lineage that, or the specific way that they do, the specific nuances that they do to so that it enriches your own path, enriches your own spiritual path.
I'll just add, Tara sent some messages that they're unable to come, and they wanted to say it's really important that people understand that when they combine this with the mentorship, then it's a much more personal experience because they're getting so much access to us and support from us. That there's also this community component of gathering online, but we didn't mention it. There's also a year's access to the Tantric Studies library, which is constantly being updated by Vairav and I, and Tara sometimes too, with videos, with lectures. There's mini courses in there on the Bhagavad Gita, on the heart body, on, I can't even remember them all, spiritual materialism. Anyway, so there's a wealth of information and practices in there to continue your studies. And then there's the community component, the heart space that some of you are familiar with, which is a place for chatting and meeting other folks, with an open meetup room where you can, like organize practicing teaching, chatting, whatever it might be. Tara is saying you're going to be able to offer with much more depth and a variety of classes and workshops that you won't be able to offer if you're just in the 200-hour training. And you'll develop the skill to make classes really accessible from a variety of perspectives. It's trauma informed, as well as the adapting postures. Is it possible to sign up in the new year? Yeah, we keep hearing this. We're thinking about it. At this time, we haven't. Oh, good. Marietta also dropped. Thank you, Marietta. So it's Kundalini retreat, a rest and restore retreat, and the Bhakti Tantra retreat. And then each of those have been condensed down into one-day workshops that you'll also be able to run. And like I say, you learn how to do all of the things that you teach in those retreats and workshops through the teacher training. So yeah, Gypsy, we're considering closing things up for Christmas, and then we'll just see where we're at and maybe opening it up in the new year. How much in the new year are you thinking that because we really do like to be able to close it down and then just focus on the students who are registered rather than perpetually being open to receiving and answering questions, I guess, and things like this. Just wondering, is there Zoom calls as well when we sign up for the yoga teacher training only? No, there's not. Yeah.
It's kind of just self-study,
Mm-hmm.
which works for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So it's the teacher training itself is just an on-demand course that you kind of work through on your own with lifetime access, as long as we're alive, I guess.
Thank you. I was just wondering because, like, how do we know we get the certificate? Like, what's the requirements to pass? Yeah, that's my question.
Great question, actually, and a great point for us to be making. So as you're going through the online material, we can track how far in the video you've watched, and then you also can click completed, and then that's measuring what you've taken in. And then there is an in-person video component where you're both having to, you have to take somebody else's class, and then you also have to teach. And those are run by Tara. So it's a way for, so then you're getting to practice teaching and receive teachings online. And you can keep doing that, or you only need to do it twice, and then you can graduate. If you need to, then you can, of course, book extra calls with myself or with Tara. You don't offer so much in terms of alignment and things like teaching skills, but yeah, you can book calls with us and we can look at what you're teaching. You can send us recordings and we can give you feedback that way. So that's all there. And you have access to us through the community for 3 months you get. And you also have access to us through email. It's not like if you send a question, we're not going to respond. And we're also responding every week. Underneath of every video, you can ask questions or make comments, and we're always responding there as well.
So there is that community component that you can definitely ask any questions, and it's usually Tara that answers them, but if it's something that they can't answer,
I have a question.
Yeah, I did it.
Well, kind of random, but one course that I am kind of missing and wish that you guys still offered. I tried looking for it in the library, but there's so much content in there. Is the Path of Awakening. That was a course that I was excited to get involved in, but for some reason never got the chance to get into it, and then it was archived. So hoping that gets released again or put somewhere or made accessible sometime in the future again. And my second question is, since I started the 200-hour, I've been doing the japa mantra for a while, and I know that the Hridaya meditation is kind of part of the 200-hour, and so which meditation style do I practice through the 200-hour training? Or yeah, those are my questions.
Well, I think it's good to practice the mantra unbroken. But then if you're wanting to graduate from the teacher training, you will know how, like you'll need to know how to teach the Hridaya meditation. However, the Hridaya meditation can be done in a much shorter time than the mantra japa. Like I'm assuming, have you gone through the mantra tantra sadhana course that we have?
Yes.
So you notice it on the sun and like to sit for 1 hour.
Yeah. I've been doing that whole process so previously.
Yeah. So I would definitely, I mean, that would be what I would feel, to stay with the mantra. If you've really been practicing for a while, you kind of build up a power, and like it gets the machine going, the Kundalini machine. So then the Hridaya is something you can easily, I know we have some recorded practices that are 30-40 minutes long. Then when you have the time and space, and then really you can move through the practice in a shorter period of time. I feel that just having a meditation practice in general will support you with the Hridaya. but also like self-inquiry is a very powerful practice. That I would say don't drop that either. For myself, it's been really important to have both. They've complemented each other, and it's allowed me to witness the mantra in pure spaciousness rather than just having it going up here. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and they complement each other in their in being kind of like opposites. And I say they're kind of like opposites because the mantra japa works with the energy.
One Shiva, one Shakti.
Yeah, which is Shakti, and then the self-inquiry works with Shiva, with consciousness, with coming into this place of being beyond the tangible into the intangible. So they're both important, but really the mantra practice for it to start to gain momentum and power. It's kind of, I always like to think of it like a big diesel generator. If you've ever heard one of these starting, starts off really slow, like you hear the cylinder move. And then it speeds up. And once it speeds up, then it starts to flow. Then all that you need is kind of like, well, for a diesel engine, a little bit of fuel every now and then. Okay. But for us, we just need a little bit of mantra practice every day to keep that flowing. Yeah, that's kind of how the mantras tend to work. And it is kind of it's often an engine is often a metaphor because once it's going, once these tantric practices are working in us, then they kind of even flow on their own. Kind of just whereas like the Hridaya is really like it's the pivot point for us to awaken. Is a way like for us to recognize truth. And that recognizing truth, of course, isn't even that difficult because we are truth. We are this, but it's the integration that's important, which the mantra practice helps us with, bringing a strong, powerful energy so that we can rest in that place of the awakening as an anchor. So the two are very important. One needs more attention, definitely. But as well, in saying that, and people who watch this later, the mantra practice isn't for everyone. And also, there's silent meditation, self-inquiry. So for me, it's worked well doing both, especially focusing more on the mantra and using the Hridaya practice more for retreats and going like deep into like a space of 10 days, many hours a day, this kind of thing. But to each of us have our own path, the individual way that to look at this and to do these practices.
Could I ask a question?
Of course.
I guess I was curious maybe about the I mean, all of it sounds great. It's a great overview of at least for me, it's stuff that I'm not as familiar with. Some of the stuff a bit, some of the stuff not as much. One thing that did kind of catch me a bit was this the heart-centered business model. And I was a bit curious about that because it seems you know, nowadays, right, you go into the world and well, there's some good, there's maybe a few headaches or challenges as we all know. And you know, doing a spiritual practice for a while, there seems to be kind of more of that feeling of wanting to do good in the world and really wanting to genuinely feel good or genuinely do good, sorry. And yeah, what kind of things would you do for this heart-centered business? approach, because I think that sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
A great place to bring spirituality in.
it's actually very similar. So the Heart Center business calls, I mean, we've been talking about maybe how I should change the name because already spiritual people feel a little bit resistant to the word business. I mean, I know I do. So it's basically the same thing that we'll go through in those 11 calls in the group mentorship of the Dharma, purpose, and action. So basically, whether working individually or as a group, when I haven't done it with a group yet, but it'll be an easy translation. But what we're doing is quieting the mind, going into the deepest places within ourselves. For me, that's in the heart. Coming into the pure witness, or even deeper into just pure presence. And then we drop a question, and together we might need to work to find what that question is, but it's a question that we might have about our life. How do I need to move in life? What is it that I'm supposed to do with my life? And, each of us can kind of tweak that question, but basically we ask a question to that place and we watch what comes up. And then through practices, this is kind of more of this tuning into the wisdom of the heart from Kashmir Shiva's perspective, but then we're also going to then move through looking at yoga psychology and what might be preventing us from bringing what we're hearing from the heart or hearing from our consciousness into action. Like, what does the mind, because the mind will come in almost immediately and say, you're not going to make enough money from that. That's not very spiritual. What about what your parents want for you? And so then we're going to pick one of those big clouds that come in from the mind and work to dissect it and take it apart and recognize the lack of truth in it and the fear that is behind it. And then we're going to look at practices from more tantra and the chakras, which you might be a little bit more familiar with from doing the Kundalini training, to find like where the psychology might be existing on what chakra and how we can balance that to help us start to bring things into manifestation. And we'll move through a series of calls like this to eventually coming to the place where we have a plan. And then in the group mentorship, where we've shared it with others, we've received feedback, and now we're ready to execute it. So it goes from this place of uncertainty, or maybe knowing what you want, but not knowing how to bring it into action, to eventually having a plan, and you're actually moving forward with the steps required to manifest that in the world. Yeah, and so really this isn't just for yoga teachers. I feel as spiritual people, what does that even really mean? But as practitioners, let's say, we can get so frozen in the stillness of our sadhana and have this discrepancy with how to come into the world and how to share that place with this place. And so the whole process is about, we need people doing sadhana who are doctors, who are making coffees, who are teaching yoga classes, yes, but who are in all areas of life. And for me, too often I've seen people with beautiful hearts and souls kind of tucked away or frozen, not able to actually bring what they're receiving in their sadhana into daily life. So that's what those calls are really about.
That sounds good. Yeah, it makes me think of there's a couple of main teachers that I follow, and one of them, her name is Mother Mira, and there's something that she said in one of her books. It's it's kind of it's about kind of working with the divine in the world, and it's really kind of fascinating that as I guess for spiritual people that work business, I know it seems almost odd, but then of course it's right, it eventually the spiritual practice can hopefully go into everybody, you know, and I've seen it too from teachers such as, you know, Swami Vishananda is another one. And it's, you know, it doesn't mean you have to be a healer or a yoga teacher. You can be the householder. It's really quite fascinating. Yeah, that excites me because it really kind of gets me excited to see how there could be spirituality kind of going into every area in the world, and business, and then that kind of stuff definitely seems like a place where it could, you know, do well, right? So
Also, these one-on-one calls that I do, I was calling them relational tantra, but I think it was confusing for people because they thought that it was about relationships. But now we're transitioning to calling it samavesha, but it's also all about bringing spirituality into every aspect of our life. It does include relationships, but it's also our, like, basically Shiva's relationship with Shakti, or our relationship as consciousness with our body, with our mind, with our emotions, with other people, with the world, and using tantric practices to basically help iron out consciousness as it flows through all of the layers of the material world. This is and so then this is one part of it, you know, being in the world, action and manifesting in some ways. I don't like to use the word manifesting because it's really overused, but it's a tantric practice, manifestation.
I'm gonna say that I also have to go. I'm gonna go rest, but I really enjoy everything that I've heard tonight and just wanted to pop in live. I mean, I watched the recordings behind. I follow the whole Anatara Sangha behind the scenes for years, but I just wanted to be live for the night. So it's good to see everyone, James and Gypsy and others. So, but I'm gonna leave, but I just wanted to say, yeah.
Well, thank you for showing up. Mhm. Mhm. I see you're unmuted. Gypsy. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you. I have no further questions, but I will correspond via email, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're living an alternative lifestyle. Let's work it out.
Okay, thank you.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.